On February 28, 2021, businessman Tyler Pratt went to a meeting he hoped would help fix his financial problems. His girlfriend, Jordan, went with him. They arrived at an industrial area on the edge of the city where he was supposed to meet some former contacts. A few hours later, police found Tyler's body at that same spot. Jordan, who had somehow survived the attack, was rushed to the hospital in very serious condition. Before losing consciousness, she managed to say two names that shocked her family, friends, and soon, the entire country. Before we explore the case, if you'd like to support the channel, hit the subscribe button and stay active. It really helps a lot. Now, let's get into it. Lucy Li was born in 1995 in Shenzhen, one of the biggest cities in China. She was the oldest of three sisters, all born just minutes apart. Hoping for a better future, her parents moved to Canada, leaving the young girls behind with relatives. It took 7 years before the family could reunite. When the sisters finally joined their parents in Toronto, Lucy's father, who was hardworking and business-minded, opened a driving school to help immigrants get their licenses. But the real financial success came from her mother, Winnie Li. She started a company called Respond International and quickly made it successful. She had a talent for finding legal gaps in tax rules and handling money smartly. Over time, Winnie became well known in the business world. Her work earned her attention in major business magazines, and she was even photographed alongside top politicians in Canada. However, all that success came at a cost. Winnie wasn't very involved in raising her daughters. When she did take interest, it was usually to check their results. She expected nothing less than perfection: good grades, skills in sports, fluency in multiple languages, talent in music, and strong financial knowledge. Mistakes weren't allowed. From a young age, Lucy tried hard to live up to these expectations, but it never seemed enough. Her mother didn't praise her achievements. She saw them as basic requirements. Over time, Lucy started feeling like she didn't belong in her own family. Far away in a small town in Slovakia, Oliver Carafa was born. His family wasn't rich, but his parents were committed to giving him a good education and a bright future. When Oliver was 8 years old, they moved to Canada in search of better opportunities. Oliver's childhood was very different from Lucy's. He had more freedom and wasn't pushed into a strict routine. But during his teenage years, he began to stray. He was drawn to danger, breaking rules, and chasing thrills. School didn't interest him, and he saw rules as pointless. Lucy and Oliver first met at school. She was the top student, focused and serious, while he was known for breaking rules. Still, they formed a bond. Oliver wasn't trying to impress anyone, and Lucy found that refreshing. He was the first person who treated her like more than just a list of achievements. As time passed, their friendship turned romantic. It was Lucy's first relationship that didn't come with pressure or expectations from her family. But like many teenage romances, theirs didn't last. They soon realized how different they were, and their hopes for the future didn't match. After finishing high school, they went their separate ways. Following her mother's plan, Lucy enrolled in a top university to study finance. She was expected to follow a path that would lead her into the family business, a life filled with wealth and status. Oliver, on the other hand, took a completely different route. His love of danger and craving for quick money pulled him into a lifestyle that was hard to leave behind. At 19, he drove while extremely drunk. That night, his car hit a streetlight. One passenger died instantly, and another young woman was badly hurt. Oliver, however, escaped with barely a scratch, but his life was changed forever. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison and banned from driving for 15 years. Years later, fate would bring him and Lucy back together. But this time, their reunion wouldn't be a sweet high school love story. Now, they would be connected by secrets, crimes, and a shared hunger for a life that would cost more than either of them expected. Lucy went to one of Canada's top universities, majoring in finance and international business, but the choice had never really been hers. Her mother had already planned which subjects her daughters would study so they could one day run the family company. Lucy understood that her education wasn't about exploring her own interests. It was just the next step in a plan she hadn't chosen. Throughout college, she was closely watched and constantly pressured to be perfect. Just getting her degree wasn't enough. She had to graduate with top honors. Any mistake was treated like a failure, and even the smallest misstep brought her mother's disapproval. Lucy worked tirelessly, winning academic awards, landing internships at major firms, and building a flawless resume. After graduating, she was immediately brought into the family company. Her mother expected her to help manage the business's finances and eventually take on a leadership role. To outsiders, Lucy looked like the perfect success story. But inside, she felt stuck. While Lucy's life was ruled by strict schedules and career pressure, Oliver was finishing his sentence and making connections behind bars. Some of his fellow inmates were involved in car theft rings, scams, and other illegal businesses. They saw Oliver's hunger for risk and his drive to succeed. He listened closely, learning the tricks they used to bend the rules. These lessons would later help him build his own underground ventures. In 2019, after serving 5 years, Oliver was released. But fitting back into normal life was harder than he expected. With no college degree and no work experience, legal jobs didn't offer the kind of money he wanted. On top of that, his driving ban took away the freedom he had once enjoyed. During this time, he started looking for a new direction. He briefly tried modeling, hoping his appearance could help him earn some money. His photos started popping up in small ads. The income wasn't great, but it helped him create an image of success. That's when his thoughts turned back to Lucy. They hadn't seen each other in years. Back in school, she had been the overachiever with a bright future, but now she was different. Her social media showed pictures of luxury parties, tropical vacations, and expensive dinners. She had become a rising influencer. Her follower count was climbing, and brands wanted to work with her. Oliver decided to reach out. They started chatting, first reminiscing about the past, then opening up about their lives now. Lucy admitted that even though she had checked all the boxes her mother had set, something was still missing. Her career wasn't built on her own choices. It was shaped by her mother's plans. Oliver, in turn, painted himself as someone who had faced struggles but was now looking for a fresh start. A few days later, they met in person. Over dinner, they talked about how much had changed. Oliver spoke with confidence about new opportunities. Lucy listened, drawn to his freedom. He didn't live by anyone's rules. He wasn't stuck in corporate life or controlled by family pressure. He lived the way he wanted. Just a few weeks after reconnecting, Lucy made a surprising decision. She packed her things and moved in with Oliver. In one bold move, she cut ties with her past and walked away from the future her mother had carefully designed. She chose the unknown over the safe and planned. At the time, she had no idea this path wouldn't lead to freedom, but to disaster. Lucy's decision to leave her family stunned her mother. Winnie wasn't used to being challenged. Everyone in her circle followed her rules, and she expected the same from her children. When she found out Lucy had moved in with Oliver Carefa, a man with a criminal past, her reaction was swift and harsh. Almost overnight, Lucy's bank accounts were frozen, and all financial help was cut off. But Lucy didn't back down. In fact, the pushback only made her more determined to prove she could live without her mother's money or control. But it didn't take long for Lucy to realize that her independence was only an illusion. Within a few weeks, it became clear that her career as an influencer wasn't bringing in enough money. She was used to living comfortably, But now her financial stability depended entirely on Oliver. Unlike Lucy, Oliver didn't seem worried. He confidently told her that he had several income streams and there was no need to stress. According to him, he made money through investments, flipping cars, selling rare items, and other profitable ventures. Lucy didn't press for details. She wanted to believe it really was that easy. Bit by bit, she got more involved in Oliver's business. Since he was still banned from driving because of his criminal record, Lucy became his full-time driver. At first it felt like no big deal. She gave him rides to meetings, picked people up, and often waited outside while he took care of things. But over time, she noticed some odd patterns. Their routes were rarely the same, and most of their trips happened late at night. Then, one day, Oliver asked her to sign documents under her name. She hesitated. It made her uneasy, especially since the paperwork was linked to vehicles she had never seen before. Oliver brushed it off, explaining that it was part of his car export business. He said he bought and resold vehicles for wealthy clients and that everything was perfectly legal, just required a few workarounds. Lucy didn't push back. She signed the papers, managed some accounts, and helped with different transactions. She thought she was just helping out with his business. In reality, she had already become part of a criminal operation. Oliver was using her clean record and professional image to make his deals look legitimate. But Lucy still didn't fully understand how deep she was in. Even though their finances were unstable, they lived in clear luxury. Their apartment was in one of Toronto's upscale neighborhoods. They changed cars every few months, never worried about prices at restaurants, and wore designer clothes. Jewelry, fancy trips, and expensive experiences became their new normal. What Lucy didn't realize was that she was growing dependent, not just on Oliver's money, but on him completely. He convinced her they were a team, and without him, she wouldn't be able to maintain the life she now had. She believed him, unaware she was already on the edge of serious trouble. In the spring of 2020, Oliver got an opportunity that could push his business to a whole new level. Through mutual contacts, he was introduced to Tyler Pratt, a man who, at first glance, looked like a standard, successful businessman. He owned multiple companies, including ones in dietary supplements and investment ventures. But Tyler's real source of income came from somewhere else entirely. He was a major player in Canada's illegal drug trade, managing large shipments and widespread distribution. After his divorce, Tyler was looking to move in a new direction. He wanted to legitimize some of his assets and slowly exit the underworld. To do that, he needed a dependable partner with a solid business idea. Oliver seemed like the perfect fit, young, ambitious, well-connected, and full of confidence. He arranged a dinner with Tyler to pitch himself as an expert in logistics and global trade. He spoke smoothly about investment opportunities in commerce, importing cars, and real estate ventures. But his main selling point was a new plan: selling personal protective equipment. At the time, the world was still reeling from the pandemic. Governments, private clinics, and businesses were desperately trying to buy face masks, gloves, hazmat suits, and other medical supplies. Oliver presented a proposal that, on the surface, looked like a goldmine. He claimed he could source gear from Asia and resell it in the West for big profits. Demand was exploding, and many sellers were happy to deal in cash. Tyler was intrigued. He was a smart businessman, but he didn't have much experience in the legal market. Oliver promised he could take care of everything through his own network. Convinced, Tyler handed over an initial investment of $200,000, expecting a fast return, maybe even double or triple his money. Over the next few weeks, Oliver worked hard to keep up the illusion. He gave Tyler fake updates on deals, bogus supplier contracts, and forged banking records that made it seem like everything was going smoothly. Tyler believed the project was moving forward. Then Oliver told him the operation needed to grow. Demand was rising fast, and they could make even more money, but it would take another investment. Excited by the potential, Tyler agreed and wired over another $500,000. He had no idea he had just sealed his fate. Weeks after the second transfer, Tyler began to notice red flags. The money was gone, but no equipment had shown up. Oliver kept brushing off his concerns, blaming shipping delays, customs issues, and paperwork problems. But the excuses were running thin. Tyler wasn't easily fooled. He knew how to run a business and wasn't about to let $500,000 vanish without answers. As he pressed harder for real proof, Oliver began to panic. There was nothing to show, no shipments, no deals, no progress. Desperate, Oliver turned to Lucy. He told her they needed to buy some time and come up with something fast. The only plan they could think of was check fraud. Lucy took an old checkbook from her mother's company and tried to cash out over $1 million from the Lee family account. She believed that with all the complex financial movements in her mother's business, the transaction would go unnoticed, but the bank flagged the transaction. A manager, familiar with the Lee family's financial activity, noticed that Winnie's signature was missing and called for verification. The transfer was blocked. The plan had failed. Now, Lucy and Oliver were trapped. Tyler had lost all patience. He no longer believed their excuses and gave them a final warning. Either he got his money back, or there would be serious consequences. Oliver quickly came to a grim conclusion. The only way out was to eliminate Tyler. He brought the idea to Lucy. Her reaction was conflicted. She understood the danger they were in, but actually committing murder seemed like crossing a line they couldn't come back from. Still, Oliver insisted there was no other option. Tyler was dangerous. He wouldn't forgive betrayal, and if they didn't act, their lives could be at risk. The plan came together fast. They invited Tyler and his girlfriend, Jordan, to a meeting under the pretense of discussing a new business opportunity. Oliver claimed he had found a way to recover the lost money. Tyler was skeptical, but agreed to give him one final chance. The meeting was set for February 28, 2021, around 6 p.m. Tyler and Jordan arrived at the agreed location, a warehouse in an industrial area. They pulled up in their SUV, completely unaware that a deadly trap had already been set. Oliver had planned every detail. He had purchased a used vehicle with cash to avoid leaving a paper trail. He and Lucy also used a disposable phone to communicate with Tyler. To help disguise herself, Lucy wore a white wig to alter her appearance. As soon as Tyler stepped out of the vehicle, Oliver pulled a gun. His first shots were aimed at Jordan. He wanted to eliminate any witnesses before they could react. A bullet struck her in the chest, and she collapsed, unconscious. Tyler froze, realizing too late what was happening. Before he could move, Oliver turned the weapon on him and fired. Multiple shots echoed through the warehouse. Tyler fell to the ground, killed instantly. Lucy stood nearby. She didn't intervene, but she saw everything. In that moment, there was no going back. They weren't just scammers anymore, they were killers. Oliver quickly checked Tyler's SUV and confirmed that Jordan wasn't moving. Believing she was dead, he left her near the car and told Lucy to go. Certain they had eliminated all witnesses, they left the warehouse confident no one would ever trace the crime back to them. But within an hour, something happened that neither of them could have imagined. At around 7:20 p.m., a truck driver passing through the area spotted someone lying near the entrance of the warehouse. It was Jordan. Despite her injuries, she was still alive and had moved just enough to catch the driver's attention. He immediately called for help. Paramedics arrived quickly and found Jordan unconscious but still breathing. Her pulse was weak but stable. No one knew how long she'd been lying on the cold concrete, But one thing was clear: she had miraculously survived. She was rushed to the hospital, where emergency surgery saved her life. Meanwhile, law enforcement secured the scene. Inside the warehouse, they found Tyler's body. He had died from multiple gunshot wounds. There were no security cameras and no immediate witnesses. But the key to solving the case was now lying in a hospital bed. As Jordan clung to life, detectives began piecing together what had happened. They combed through her call logs, messages, and recent movements. Within hours, they discovered she and Tyler had been in contact with Oliver shortly before the attack. The meeting wasn't random, it had been arranged. Oliver was now their prime suspect. At the time, Oliver and Lucy had no idea their carefully planned escape was already falling apart. They watched news reports, seeing vague headlines about an unknown shooter. They believed they had pulled it off. But when a news anchor announced that one of the victims had survived and was now in stable condition, their confidence turned to panic. Lucy froze. Oliver started pacing. He knew Jordan had seen them. She could identify their faces, their voices, even the clothes they were wearing. Once she regained consciousness, it was only a matter of time before the police had everything they needed. They had to run. Oliver quickly contacted people in his network, those who could forge documents, arrange fake passports, and help them disappear. They still had the stolen money, hundreds of thousands taken from Tyler's investments. The only thing they didn't have was time. Within hours, they met with their contacts. Lucy received a fake passport identifying her as a Philippine citizen. Oliver assumed the identity of a Hungarian national. Using those forged documents, they boarded a flight to Europe without raising suspicion. Their first stop was Prague. They chose the city because it was a busy travel hub. Lots of tourists, fewer questions. They rented a short-term apartment and kept a low profile, leaving only when absolutely necessary. But the fear was constant. Oliver obsessively checked the news, waiting for their names to appear on an international wanted list. Lucy barely spoke, haunted by what they'd done. They hadn't just made a mistake, they had become something else entirely. After a few quiet days, they moved again, first to Bratislava, then to Budapest. They believed that constantly changing locations would make them harder to track. In reality, they were only leaving a longer trail. Oliver was convinced they still had time, that law enforcement would take weeks, maybe months, to catch up. But the situation was changing fast. International agencies were now involved. The net was closing in. Back in Canada, authorities hadn't stopped working. The first major breakthrough came from phone records. Investigators traced a SIM card used to contact Tyler. It had been bought just one day before the murder at a shop in Toronto. Digging deeper, detectives uncovered another lead. A friend of Lucy's who had unknowingly helped the pair by giving them an extra SIM card. During questioning, the friend admitted Lucy had asked for it. This was the first solid piece of evidence linking her to the crime. The next lead came from security cameras. Investigators reviewed footage from the area around the warehouse and spotted a car registered under a fake name driving by. Inside, the passengers strongly resembled Oliver and Lucy. Additional footage from near their apartment showed them leaving on the evening of February 28th and returning late that night. Then, Jordan woke up. She remembered everything. She gave investigators the final confirmation they needed. She clearly identified Oliver and Lucy as the attackers. That was all authorities needed to issue arrest warrants. Canadian law enforcement immediately shared the case with Interpol. Within days, Oliver and Lucy were placed on an international wanted list. Their photos, names, and last known locations were distributed across Europe. Hungarian police received the alert and started monitoring foreign visitors who matched the couple's descriptions. It didn't take long. Oliver made a mistake. While paying rent for their apartment, he used fake documents that didn't hold up under scrutiny. The landlord reported the suspicious documents to police. Once authorities confirmed they were dealing with wanted fugitives, a tactical unit was sent in. There was no time to run. Oliver and Lucy were arrested on the spot. Lucy tried to claim it was all a misunderstanding, but the officers knew exactly who they were taking in. They were placed in detention, and within days, the extradition process to Canada began. Their time on the run was over. By the spring of 2024, the trial of Lucy Lee and Oliver Caroffa had become a national story. Two young people who once had every opportunity for success had chosen a path of crime, and it had ended in murder. The trial lasted several weeks. Prosecutors presented overwhelming evidence, phone records, surveillance footage, financial transactions, and, most crucially, the testimony of the survivor. Lucy's main defense was to shift the blame entirely onto Oliver. She claimed she had no knowledge of the murder plot, no involvement in Tyler's death, and had simply been manipulated. According to her, Oliver was the mastermind, and she had just followed his lead, without truly understanding the consequences. However, the evidence told a very different story. Prosecutors presented undeniable proof that Lucy had been an active participant from the beginning. She had helped orchestrate the financial schemes, assisted in hiding the stolen money, arranged the meeting with Tyler, and even attempted to forge key financial documents. Her decision to flee the country using a fake passport only further confirmed her involvement and guilt. Oliver, on the other hand, refused to take the stand. His defense team argued that the crime was not premeditated, but rather the result of a heated conflict that spiraled out of control. The court, however, was unconvinced. The final blow to Lucy's case came in the form of surveillance footage. It showed her deliberately hiding her face during the meeting with Tyler, an obvious attempt to avoid recognition. Additionally, investigators uncovered records proving she had purchased the SIM card used to lure Tyler to the warehouse. These damning details destroyed any credibility her defense had tried to maintain. The verdict was swift and unsurprising. Both Oliver Caroffa and Lucy Lee were found guilty of murder, fraud, and fleeing justice. They were each sentenced to life in prison, with the possibility of parole only after 25 years. The trial ended, but its aftermath rippled through the lives of everyone involved. Lucy, once surrounded by privilege and luxury, now sat behind bars. Her fall from grace was complete. Oliver, whose life had been a series of reckless choices and adrenaline-fueled schemes, had finally lost it all. Their story became a grim reminder of how greed, manipulation, and the pursuit of easy money can spiral into devastating consequences. Public opinion was sharply divided. To many, Tyler Pratt was a victim, someone who trusted the wrong people and paid the ultimate price. His family and friends described him as a man who was trying to turn his life around, someone who wanted to transition into legitimate business ventures. Others, however, viewed Tyler as a willing participant in shady deals, whose own decisions played a part in his tragic end. Lucy Lee became a symbol of wasted potential. Born into wealth and given every opportunity, she chose deception over honesty, greed over stability. Her relationship with her mother, Winnie Lee, disintegrated in the aftermath. Winnie refused to make any public statements. The scandal tarnished her reputation in the business world, and eventually, she erased Lucy's name from her life entirely, offering no defense, no support, and no forgiveness. Oliver, in contrast, was seen by many as a man destined for destruction. His troubled past, criminal tendencies, and disregard for consequences had all led to this inevitable conclusion. The case shattered multiple lives. Tyler lost his future. Jordan, who had survived the shooting, not only lost the man she loved, but investigators later revealed that she had been pregnant at the time. The weight of the tragedy deepened even further. What began as a scheme for easy money ended in death, grief, and prison. In the end, everyone paid a price through lost lives, lost freedom, or lost futures. Thanks for watching, everyone. Your support truly means a lot. Don't forget to hit that like button, leave a comment, and share it with others. It really helps the channel grow. Your engagement makes a huge difference. See you in the next one.